I'm gonna try to keep it together for this story because I'm so enraged that it's gonna be hard. Yes, I'm talking about the bombshell report that Dropside News just released, confirming every worst thing we thought about the Biden administration. This is the confirmation of all the horrendous shit that they lied about, and I, for one, am not gonna let them get away with it. You remember this? Remember AOC at the DNC saying that Kamala Harris and Biden's administration was working tirelessly for a ceasefire? Now, at the time, those of us on the left were attacked by the libs and the Democratic establishment for saying that it was horseshit because we knew it was horseshit because there was absolutely no evidence that they were doing any such thing. But they thought that they could trot out a progressive and gaslight us all. We knew it was a lie. It was a lie then, and Dropside News just confirmed what all of us were saying at the time. The only variation is that it's actually worse than what we thought it was. Because even though we knew that they weren't working tirelessly for a ceasefire, what was confirmed in this piece that we didn't know was that they never even asked. We thought that they were just pathetically being like, hey, can you have a ceasefire? No, it's worse than that. They never even asked. Report. Biden officials admit that they never pressured Israel for a ceasefire as Israeli leaders boast of playing Washington. They literally laugh at us. Everyone has seen, right, that famous video of Netanyahu from 2001 where he's trying to assure settlers that they don't need to worry about America when they're taking more land because he's got this. Americans are very easy to manipulate and he knows how to do it. That's what this reminded me of. God did the state of Israel a favor that Biden was the president during this period. We fought in Gaza for over a year and the administration never came to us and said ceasefire now. It never did. And that's not to be taken for granted. Former Israeli ambassador Michael Herzog. I had to re-record that a couple times because I was so fucking enraged as I was reading it. I wanted to throw my phone. First of all, imagine thinking that what you've done to Gaza is God-inspired. So these motherfucking liars, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, all the scum in the State Department, Tony Blinken, Vendetta Patel, and Count Smirkula Matt Miller, Jake Sullivan, and all those fucking liars came out day after day and said that they were working around the clock for a ceasefire. They never even once asked, which is why I don't even put fucking up with the fucking libs and Democrats that come out and go, well, they were working for a ceasefire and you should have voted for Biden. The only reason why we are where we are right now with the genocide in Gaza is because of the Biden administration. They never once demanded that they stop killing people. They never once demanded that it end. They set the stage. They rolled out the fucking carpet for them to do everything that they're able to do now. They enabled it for over a fucking year. They not just enabled it, they helped them. They funded it. Despite what I know that you libs want to tell yourself to help you sleep at night, Trump didn't come into office with Gaza looking like this. Biden did this. Kamala Harris did this. The entire administration did this. The Democratic Party did this. A sweeping Israeli Channel 13 investigation has exposed that the Biden administration's complicity in Israel's 19-month war on Gaza. 9 top Biden officials acknowledged avoiding real pressure on Israel, even as the death toll surpassed 30,000. Israeli leaders openly bragged that they dragged out the war, playing for time until Donald Trump's return. It literally makes me sick thinking about that they're fucking bragging about it. Former National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Ambassador Tom Needs, and others defended their unwavering support for Israel, even as they admitted enabling a campaign, one U.S. aide describing as killing and destroying for the sake of killing and destroying. Ian Goldberg, a senior national security aide, described the war's aimlessness. If they're never going to do this, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. Hamas is still going to control Gaza. You're just killing and destroying for the sake of killing and destroying, but you're not building an alternative. U.S. officials pushed a post-war plan modeled on the anti-ISIS campaign, proposing that Arab states temporarily secure Gaza, but Netanyahu blocked it, refusing any role for a Palestinian Authority. Far-right Israeli ministers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich openly pushed for reoccupying Gaza and rebuilding settlements. Netanyahu refused to advance alternatives, keeping the door open to their demands. Biden aides privately admitted that Netanyahu was dragging out the war. He he's undercutting it every step of the way, said Goldberg. All the security people are coming out and saying it. He also revealed that there were internal discussions in Washington about Biden giving a speech to pressure Israel politically, possibly triggering new elections, but Biden backed off. He didn't want to. That's why they were praising the fact that he was president when this happened, because they knew he wasn't going to do shit. They knew he didn't want to do shit. They knew he wasn't going to give a speech saying that Netanyahu should be replaced, because they knew he didn't disagree with them. Also, I like how all these aides are coming out and privately telling us shit that we already fucking knew. Everybody was saying this at the time. That's why people were protesting the Biden administration, because people were saying, why aren't you doing anything? He's sabotaging it. Why aren't you pushing for a ceasefire? People fucking knew. He chose to ignore it. The U.S. covered for Israel's war crimes and blocked an aid report. This was something else that we talked about at the time. The State Department advisor Stacey Gilbert resigned after being cut out of the process of drafting a legally required arms compliance report. The final version cleared the Israeli regime of violating U.S. law despite overwhelming evidence that aid had been obstructed. Gilbert called it shocking in its mendacity, adding, everyone knows that is not true. Even as settlers looted Gaza-bound trucks and Israel blocked humanitarian aid, Biden certified compliance and kept weapons flowing. Whew, I'm having to take breaks between reading this, because even though these are all things that we knew and we talked about at the time, to re-go through it is so enraging. It makes me want to spend the rest of my days not only going after the regime, but going after the Democratic Party and making sure that everybody also knows how evil they are and not allowing them to whitewash and try to rehabilitate their image after doing shit like this. They knew that the Israeli regime was breaking international law. They knew it. That's why they got rid of this woman. They didn't want her reporting on it internally. They knew that they were blocking aid, and yet they bypassed it, ignored it. Remember, Antony Blinken lied about it? They should be in The Hague. There needs to be a fucking investigation. These people are war criminals and they need to be held accountable. There needs to be fucking accountability for these war crimes. Netanyahu's sabotage captives release talks to prolong the war, which I don't know why more people aren't mad at Netanyahu for that. You guys know that he did that on purpose while pretending to give a fuck about the hostages. Biden officials revealed that Netanyahu deliberately tanked negotiations, fearing a deal would force him to end the war. You mean end the genocide. Just know that anytime they say war, they mean genocide. American-Israeli hostage Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, was scheduled for release the day that he was executed. Amos Hochstein confirmed, there is no doubt that those hostages would be alive. Netanyahu's public campaign to retain control over Gaza's Philadelphia corridor was viewed by Biden officials as a smokescreen to kill the deal. So just know that anytime those propagandists try to use that Hirsch Goldberg guy, that Poland guy, as a chip, and to be like, oh my gosh, we can't believe what happened to him, they let him get killed. They knew that he was going to get killed and they could have saved him, and they chose not to. Because genociding the Palestinians was more important to them than the lives of the fucking Israeli hostages. Don't get it twisted. Biden backed the Israeli regime even after Netanyahu publicly undermined and insulted him. Again, something else we knew. We saw it happening in real time. And he just sat there and was like, please, sir, yes, more humiliation. Biden once told Netanyahu that he was full of shit and hung up the phone mid-call. But as Ambassador Tom Needs put it, Biden saw Netanyahu as a manipulator, a magician, but he stood by him through the end. In May of 2024, Biden announced that he was pausing a shipment of 2,000-pound bombs over concerns about their use in Gaza, but days later, Netanyahu accused the U.S. of freezing broader arm deliveries, reportedly pausing Biden's plans to restore the paused shipment. I don't give a fuck if he in private didn't like Netanyahu. Your actions are what count. And his actions showed that not only was he a weak, pathetic piece of shit, but that fundamentally he agreed with everything that they were doing. So don't let them try to whitewash or rehabilitate Biden either. And the Saudi deal collapsed because of Israel's refusal to make any concessions. Biden officials described how a U.S.-Saudi normalization deal, coupled with defense and economic pacts, was nearly complete, but it required Israel to accept a a political horizon for Palestinians. Dan Shapiro, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, explained, "We always understood that the Israeli government depended on far-right ministers who would try to block that commitment. That might require an election or a coalition shuffle." Former U.S. Ambassador Jack Lew called Israel's refusal to engage kind of shocking. Is it, though? Is it? Amos Hochstein said, "I don't understand the decision not to grab the opportunity as the most important strategic move Israel can make." Herzog claimed that Netanyahu deliberately stalled, hoping that Trump would return to office and take credit. "It was my understanding that Trump preferred the deal to wait until he got into office so he could be the one to do it." So the question is, why didn't Biden push then? Because we all knew that that's what they were doing. And so they were fully aware beforehand that if they did not get this deal done, that it was going to compromise Kamala Harris's chances of winning. And they did not care. Here it is in fucking black and white. They knew and they didn't care. You won't see any insufferable liberals or Democrats holding that administration accountable for these decisions, though. Of course not. Disgusting, disgraceful administration. And I'm never going to let them forget about it, and neither should you. Because they can try to pin this whole thing on Netanyahu alone and play helpless genocider, but the fact is, and everybody knows, they couldn't do any of this without the U.S. The administration had enormous leverage over them that they could have used so many times, and they chose not to because they didn't disagree.